The Gospel comes to us from Psalm 139. Yahweh, you have searched me and you know me. You know if I am standing or sitting, you read my thoughts from far away. Whether I walk or lie down, you are watching. You are intimate with all my ways. A word is not even on my tongue, Yahweh, before you know what it is. You hem me in before and behind, shielding me with your hand. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, a height my mind cannot reach. Where could I run from your spirit? Where could I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, there you are. If I make my bed in death, you are already there. I could fly away with wings made of dawn or make my home on the far side of the sea. But even there, your hand will guide me, your mighty hand holding me fast. If I say the darkness will hide me and night will be my only light, even darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You created my inmost being and stitched me together in my mother's womb. For all these mysteries, I thank you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. For the wonder of your works, my soul knows well. My frame was not hidden from you while I was being made in that secret place, knitted together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my body even there. All of my days were written in your book, all of them planned before even the first of them came to be. How precious your thoughts are to me, O God, how impossible to number them. I could no more count the sand, but suppose I could, you would still be with me. The Gospel of God. So in our ongoing celebration of the season of creation, today we shift our focus from the earth, but not quite from the earth, because the earth is contained within the cosmos. And usually the word cosmos conjures up starry images of far distant constellations. And staring out into space can make us feel small and insignificant. But on this Cosmos Sunday, I'd like us to move from our usual perspective on the cosmos. Perspective is a powerful tool, especially when we contemplate our place in the cosmos. You see, the word cosmos refers to the entire universe, every dimension of time and space, spiritual and material. The cosmos includes the glittering galaxies that are so distant that we must peer at them through sophisticated giant telescopes, as well as the deep domains within each minute molecule, which we can only peer at through the lenses of sophisticated giant microscopes. And in addition to the material dimension of universes, the cosmos also includes the dimensions of time, our imaginations, and of the spirit. Now, think of a cube of sugar for a moment. Scientists tell us that you can actually fit the entire human race, all 7 billion of us, into the space of a tiny sugar cube. Something about the emptiness of matter that's beyond my intellectual ability to comprehend. The cosmos is both infinitely large and infinitely small. And none of our telescopes and none of our microscopes can actually capture the vastness of the infinity, nor can they capture the intricate details of the infinitely small. We must rely on our imaginations for this perspective on the cosmos. Staring out in the night sky can make us feel very small. Looking around the Earth, which is in and of itself a particularly small planet, this too can make us feel insignificant. But as the psalmist insists, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And the Hebrew word that is translated as fearfully can also be translated as awesome. Your very being is so very wonderful that it inspires awe. Awe and wonder are the very first religious impulses. So congratulations. You're awesome. Tremendous. Wonderful. And yet, so often we can only see ourselves as small in relation to the cosmos. Small and insignificant. Small and powerless. I remember once a long time ago when I was feeling so very small and insignificant and powerless. I was 10 years old, and my grandfather, he was the type of person who had a way of belittling people. I mean, he could crush you in an instant with his words. And Granda had been taunting me over something that I had said. The adults were talking about the war in the Middle East. Now, this was 1967, at the time of the Six-Day War in Israel and Palestine. And I was just 10, and I didn't understand the details of what was happening. But I did understand the drills that we went through at school. And some of us here are of that age. You know, you remember hiding under your desk in the event of a nuclear attack, right? Somehow our wooden desks were supposed to protect us from a nuclear attack. It was a kind of madness that we all participated in as a culture. Anyway, the adults were talking about war, and I piped up about the need for peace. And my granda, who firmly believed that children should be seen and not heard, proceeded to ridicule and belittle me. And I don't remember his words. I only remember how those words made me feel. And even remembering it, I can still feel those feelings. It can almost make me weep. I love that old bugger. And I'm sure that it was my love for him that made it possible for him to crush me the way he did, because I know that love, among other things, makes us vulnerable. And I remember dashing out of the house, out into the darkness of the night, and staring up at the stars and feeling so small, so insignificant. And I didn't notice that my uncle had joined me. And I was sort of sniveling, not wanting him to know how horrible I felt. And I tried to put on a brave front. He was my favorite uncle. And slowly, as my uncle talked me around, I managed to get my sniveling under control, and I blurted out something about how unfair it was that adults have all the power. My uncle insisted that I was more powerful than I thought. And to prove it, he asked me to look up at the moon. And it was one of those really bright full moons. And my uncle went on about how huge the moon is, how big it is, and how far away it is. And then my uncle insisted that I, little old me, was powerful enough to snuff out the moon. Well, I knew that this was crazy talk, right? How on earth could I ever snuff out the moon? And then my Uncle Cliff proceeded to show me just how powerful I am. I don't know if you remember this trick from when you were a kid. He told me to hold my thumb up in just the right spot. And sure enough, the moon disappeared. Little old me. I was powerful enough to make the moon disappear. I was so much more powerful than I thought. I didn't know it then, but that was the first lesson that I can remember receiving on the importance of perspective. We are so much more powerful than we think. Perspective is a powerful tool. Sometimes we feel so very small and insignificant, and I don't know about you, but for the past few days, I've been paying attention to a 16-year-old, I was going to call her a child, not a child, Greta Thunberg. She's a phenomenon. And she's been talking about her own angst, about who we are as a people. Talk about being fearfully and wonderfully made. This young woman is magnificent. She's awesome. She's also been diagnosed as on the spectrum, and her Asperger's syndrome helps her to see things from a different perspective, a perspective that the world desperately needs right now. Greta has been mocked by the powerful, and yet she herself has demonstrated a kind of superpower that has turned out millions of people across the planet whose collective power is making a difference. Now, I know we hear about who's not paying attention, but let me tell you about who is paying attention. Nations are paying attention. Corporations are paying attention. World leaders are paying attention to this powerful young woman. And tomorrow, all sorts of announcements are expected from the United Nations about the ways in which various nations and the largest corporations and world leaders intend to respond to the climate crisis. Greta has rebuked the powerful. Her words, they're not naive, nor are they idealistic. She is very grounded. She may be young, and she may be small, but she's more powerful than you think. Don't let the chattering masses fool you. The orange man in the White House can bloviate all he wants, but little Greta has the power to hold up her thumb and make that orange man disappear. At the UN Youth Summit, 20 of the biggest corporations, as well as 40 major countries, 40 countries, have announced actions that they will take in response to the climate crisis. Perspectives are changing. Individuals do matter. You are more powerful than you think. You may not be able to make the climate crisis disappear, but together we can join hands and embrace a new perspective that has the power to respond in harmony with the earth. You are more powerful than you think. Yes, you have thumbs, and many of you have green thumbs, and you can begin by planting a tree. You have the power to cultivate a new harmony with the earth. You are also amongst the wealthiest people on the planet, and many of us have retirement investments, and we have the power to ensure that our investments are healing and not hurting the earth. You are also among the wisest people I know, with the power of information at your fingertips. You have voices that you can use to exercise your freedom of speech and the power of the ballot. There's an election coming, and we have the power to hold our leaders to account. We are more powerful than we think. When I was at university, there was an old urban myth that was circulating about a professor who handed out a single exam paper, and it was turned upside down on everybody's desk, and when people were instructed to turn the paper over, they discovered what looked like a blank page. And in the middle of that page was a small red dot. And the students were instructed to write about what they saw. And when the allotted time ended, the professor collected all the papers and began to read what the students had written. And without exception, each and every student wrote about that small red dot. Nobody, not a single person, wrote about the mass of white that surrounded the red dot. Now, based on a particular perspective, interpreters of this urban myth have insisted that we tend to focus more on the small things that distract us and fail to see the large stuff that is all around us. But if we shift our perspective we might be able to see the power of a small thing to make the big thing disappear from focus. I suspect that some of you might say that the white represents the magnitude of the climate crisis, and the small red dot represents those who are willing to do something about the crisis. But if we change our perspective, we will see that the red dot represents the small number of people who stand against the vast number of people who are working, even as we speak, to respond to the needs of the moment and to heal the earth. We are more powerful and more numerous than we have been led to think. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are up to the task because you are awesome. You are wonderful. You are intricately, intimately connected to the cosmos. You are divine. You have the power to change the world. So, have at it.